Short introduction on myself, on DSV. I'm not sure if everybody knows the company I work for. And after that, I will focus a bit more on the European production. And I felt courageous enough, instead of Dan, to really name the numbers instead of percentages. So I hope I can present them and they will give you some insight and added value from today. So let's see if this works. Yes. So this is partly already in the introduction from Doug, but maybe as I kind of like Canada, it's interesting to say on the bottom of the sheet, I had this internship after my studies on Farm and Outlook at John and Ali Kunst. Of course, they also came from the Netherlands. And after World War II, three of the brothers of my mother's side, they also came to Canada. One of them landed in Quebec, in St. Paul's d'Abbotsford, and two of them are in Kelowna. So I come from a small village in the Rhine Delta, where there's a lot of orchards. So they started a fruit business in Kelowna. So I still try to go there now and then, although one of them has passed away, as it goes. So a short agenda and introduction on DSV, market overview Europe, the way we see it at the moment. Then I zoom in on the production levels, and you can see that the markets affect the production levels. And then I took the liberty to compare a little bit the North American seed practices with the European, maybe to have a closer look to the differences, and maybe also referring to the presentation from Dan, what certified seed brings or not brings. It could be interesting for you to take with you home. So first, an introduction to our company. So I started working in the Dutch company Zelder BV, which was later taken over by the big DSV group. So DSV means Deutsche Saatveredelung. So it's a German company, but as I will show later, we are really a group of different European nationalities working together to make the best products possible. And I kind of underlined what I think is important in our vision. So that's economically efficient and practical production systems. It simply has to give added value to the end user, which is you, which is, let me say, the agricultural companies, the farmers. They need to have added value on the long term. And kind of special, we really go very deep in the market. So let me say, in Germany, we have a team of about 30 people really going on farms, looking at problems, learning from the farmers. I think the difference we have as a mid-sized company that we are still really close to the end user. I'm a farmer myself. I know the problems, take them with me to the company and really try to be pragmatic, really work into solutions. So that it says innovation for your growth. So of course that's on a variety level, but also in the second bullet point, intelligent cultivation concepts, as I will show you a little bit later. So this is the research part. Plant breeding is our passion. I will go a little bit fast in these slides, not to bore you too much, but the big crops are grasses, oilseed rape, cereals, legumes, and cover crops. So this is a slow part about those intelligent cultivation concepts. So we were the first in the world to make those cover crop mixtures. We call it the Terra Life concept. And we still, in the meantime, we are actually breeding on component level. What is the best solution for companion cropping? As an example, which annual clover would grow the best under a canopy of a spring canola and not be killed by Liberty Link and have the best result for the end user. So there are things that we also research, and we try to find the best solutions and be better than our competitors. So here, just on one sheet, a little bit the size of our company. At the moment, we have about 250 million euro turnover. 8 subsidiaries, and maybe also important to know we are founded and still owned by farmers. Actually, I'm also a shareholder myself, so the employees are also shareholders. So we try to keep everything inside instead of, let me say, outside companies trying to rule what we do. So again here, the species we are most active in, where I would like to add to this information that in corn, so maize, we are not a breeder. We just go on all these farms. So we license in some genetics. In the other species, we are also a breeder. So here you can see that this is just a short example of varieties that are a success for us. And here you can see it's really on a variety level that we try to be very exceptional in the needed traits, so high yield, virus resistant, you name it. I think this is not new to you. And here you go more into the mixtures that we develop. So, like I said, what combination? So we have, as an example, we advise different cover crops prior to the main crop in next year. So if it's potatoes, we have a mixture we recommend, or if it's sugar beet, it's a different mixture. And then the components, they support the main crop in the year after the cover crop. And of course, in the forage grass mixtures, also different components we breed, and we try to make the best blends. So a little bit an overview of where we are. So we have in the, you know where Germany is, there we have the mother company. It's the biggest factory. And then the other dots, these are the daughter companies. So I am also from the Netherlands, from the daughter company DSV Zaden Nederland BV. And of course, I'm very happy, Jerry is also here, that since 2 or 3 years we have also now DSV Northstar as a member of our family. And maybe also to warn Dan, it's our intention to come into the US over Canada. So hopefully we can make that big, and maybe we can even make it big together. I don't see him, but just waving. Production is very important for us. So I'm a production manager, managing also, let me say, on a helicopter level, our productions. And like Dan says, sometimes also we outsource production. So most of our productions are in Denmark, Germany, and the Netherlands, and certain species that we can outsource due to cost efficiency, quality, or simply because we cannot grow it in our own countries. Then we have third-party productions that we organize. Then a short highlight, because it's so important for us and we invest so much. Maybe you have seen it on the prior sheet. So we invest about 10% of what we have back again into innovation and investigation and new products or research. And then we do that in these seed breeding stations. I will not go through them, but this is the biggest one. It's in Germany. It's for the canola, winter canola. Very technical. Greenhouses alone only cost already over millions. Very sophisticated breeding. This is in Leutowitz. This is close to the Czech Republic, in Saxonia, where we have our breeding for the cereals. This is where we have breeding for the spring canola and the turf grasses. It's also Germany. Then, of course, sometimes you have your genetics, and then you have to find out, like France is a big market, then you have to also go into France and breed over there, because the varieties that we breed in Germany, they will not perform as well in France. Another one a bit more south, where we focus more on the canola and the cereals. And this is where my home base is. Actually, in the left bottom corner is my office. And it's an old farmhouse that we redesigned into an office. And here we breed the forage grasses. And then we have also the UK, where we have a breeding station. Canola and wheat and a little bit of grasses are then the priorities. And yes, we are also active in Ukraine. And they are really heroes, you know. They just continue the business. They do the trials as good as they can. And actually, maybe for your information, the market was quite good for us. We sell quite a bit of spring canola into the Ukraine. And although the war, but everybody who has a farm still wants to continue, of course. So with their help, we did find logistic solutions to deliver our customers over there. So hopefully this war thing will be over soon. And last but not least, on the breeding stations, we also have a cooperation in DL seeds together with NPZ, where we hope we will soon have better and better varieties also for you available over here in Canada. So this is only spring canola. So that was the DSV story. Then I would like to continue with the European market update. I deliberately put these two photos in because the upper photo is what we see in Europe, Northwest Europe, quite a lot, that the pastures need reseeding after the winter, and we use this equipment for it. It's a kind of an aggressive harrow that takes out the annual grasses, and then we have in the tank we have perennials. Most of it is perennials that we reseed. So that's you have certain areas that don't, the renewal of the pastures is very limited, but this system creates the market for it, and it really has added value. So you kind of reinstall your sod along the way. And of course, at the bottom, at the right, that's our turf, the professional turf market that does overseeding with this equipment. And on top of that, of course, we have the private owner market that takes the little boxes. So, general remark, also reflecting to what Dan Weaver was saying, low consumption levels since 2 years, more than 2 years. We're still waiting for markets to recover. We do see the first signs of recovery, I would say. But the more commodity it is, the harder it is. Like the premiums are kind of okay. So hopefully also those commodity part of the business will recover a bit more soon. Turf grass is suffering the most. So a dramatic decline after COVID. I don't have to explain that after what Dan already told us. I completely agree with him. I would say the forages are still okay. We have a balanced situation with different supply balance between the different species. I will zoom in a little bit more in the next sheets. And what is also very nice for us as a company, that the cover crops were really booming the last 4 or 5 years. Also because of legislation asking for it, but also for growers really seeing the benefit of it. Zooming in on the turf grasses, we had this peak in sales and everybody started producing, and then demand fell away. It's something maybe in economical studies it will be a typical example in the future, what not to do. So especially in red fescue, we see a big oversupply, especially in perennials also, but then more in the commodity segment, not that much in the premium segment. I would say other species are more balanced. I know that also in the US they talk about an oversupply of Kentucky bluegrass. We don't see that much in Europe. Also because we work more with certified seed production, so the seed companies have a bit more control. But I have a little bit more about that later. So if anyone in between has a question or wants to ask, I would like also to invite, please do so, yeah? So forage, perennial ryegrass, enough available. And then again, it's almost everything in the EU is recommended material. So nobody wants to give that away for free. So everybody kind of keeps the prices on a decent level because of that. Same with meadow fescue, although it's a bit under pressure, but still on a level that we make money. Timothy, Also decreased production levels because of oversupply. I will show the graph in my next slides. We did have low prices offered from seeds from the Baltic states, but then we are back to these recommended markets. So then when some variety from Finland or whatever, I cannot even pronounce the name, we just don't buy it because we cannot use it because the Northwest European environment is protected. So also what we do in Germany and what we do as an example with North Star, we only grow those dedicated varieties that are recommended. So we try to keep away from commodity, uncertified, common. So short living grasses, my observation in Europe is that's quite tight. Annuals are already sold out. And also in Italian ryegrass prices are expected to increase. And the reasons for that will come, I will show you later. And in Europe, at least, the clovers and alfalfa are short at the moment. But you never know what the new year will bring us. So the alfalfa production in Europe is getting more problematic due to the loss of dicot. We are not allowed to use that anymore. And we had 2 years on a row of very low yields in Italy. So when they will have a very high yield again, then we will all be in trouble, but we will see. So one slide about the cover crops. It's not so very common over here, so I will show it a bit faster. So white mustard prices are under pressure. So these Eastern European countries, sometimes they produce certified seed, and they fill up the bags with seed from Belarus, White Russia, or the Ukraine. So we call that illegal seed practices, but they happen. And with fodder radish, that is not a problem. So there we have much more stable demand and pricing. Phacelia, typically European product, a nice purple flower, but it goes in almost every mixture, so it's quite important for us. But a wrap-up would be the mixtures really stable. A lot of different species go in there. Also species that we don't produce ourselves, that we have to buy in. And that are also the annual clovers in our case. And vetches and Niger seed. Also a big component in a lot of our mixtures. So, the next slides are about the production developments in Europe. I took this picture where it kind of illustrates a little bit what we think is going on, where you can see that the bottom part of Europe is suffering a bit more from drought. And we have, as an example, we also have French companies asking us now to take over their productions, as they have more and more problems on the climatic level with drought, so that it goes a little bit, it seems to go a little bit north, the climate, let me say, zone. So that could help us, of course, as we are more active in Denmark, the Netherlands, and Germany. But you know, Mother Earth is already here so long, and we only look here at a time window of 5 years or so. So I'm not sure if it is really the case, but everybody talks about it. So this is why I wanted to share this with you. It is a fact that, for instance, Italy and France were suffering a lot on having really, really low production levels. And growers walking away from seed production. So one global view that I would like to share, that is what we use internally. It's about an estimate from our side, about 900,000 metric tons of production, where Oregon is, or America is, kind of the biggest, but this is certified and uncertified. And it's interesting to know that Europe is completely certified, yeah? So that gives a little bit the balance for us. And as I have written on this, when it's a little bit more bright green, this is where we are active as DSV. I see there's still a little bit of Minnesota in, but we don't produce there anymore. And at the moment, also not that much in Oregon. We are now more active in Europe, Canada, and of course also New Zealand for contrast season production. So, like I said, if we zoom in on certified seed productions, I have my estimates, but also discussing with my colleagues. In Canada, 70% on alfalfa, grasses 40 to 60, maybe depending on species. In the US, annuals only 10%, tall fescue maybe 80%, the average maybe 30%. I don't have an exact number on it, but I'm quite certain that in Europe it's close to 100. Yes, it is sometimes inconvenient to make these extra costs for us as an industry, but it does kind of protect us a little bit more to all the market ups and downs and the big oil tanker that production can be. Is easier to pull the brake if you have certified seed production, because then you just stop offering the growers contracts. So, and of course, in the case, talking as an employee of a breeding company, yeah, those high technical markets need breeding input, and we need to pay our breeding team as well. So that's why we need certified seeds, right? To support innovation. Yeah, and in the last part, the last slides, I zoom in a little bit on this certified or not certified and what are the pros and cons, as I thought this could be a good stage for you to share this information. So where do we produce the seed in Europe? Primarily in the 5 countries highlighted over here. Most of it, we find the highest seed yields when we are close to the coast. Also in the Netherlands, as a production manager, I stopped producing seeds further than 20 kilometers away from the coast, because the seed yields are 30% higher if we can smell the seed. So this is because in the flowering time, you have the sunlight gives more ears, and the wind makes a better pollination. So it's simply something we can steer and have a bit higher cost efficiency. And I'm not saying all my growers living close to the sea are happy growers, but it helps. So Timothy and Meadow Fescue is also grown in Finland and Sweden. A little bit your counterparts, I would say. Sometimes they also cannot produce anything else but Timothy on those fields, a bit more lower fields. We're on heavy clay soil. Alfalfa is also quite big in Italy and Spain and Romania, Hungary. But the main exporting country is Italy. France was it also in the past, but they suffered so much from those loss of dicot, having higher production risks because of swathing, that they kind of just barely have enough for the domestic markets. Yeah, like also Spain, they are more on the level of self-support. I never get an inquiry of alpha seed sales from Spain. They just produce only for their own country. So the next slides show the development of hectares of the main grass production, and I will zoom in a little bit on the species. Here you can also see where I put 25 in as an estimate that I'm pretty sure of, and 26 as a prediction, right? On the top you can see that perennial ryegrass is the biggest species in Europe. Of course, we are a little bit more mild, so perennial ryegrass is very suitable for us in most of our mixtures. And then the blue line is the short-living grasses, Italian and Westerwolds together, going a little bit up again, and red fescue, you can see it really is going down. And the other species I will zoom in a little bit later, so let me just click on the next one. And here you can also see, yeah, it says main clover productions, including the alfalfa. I just want to say these are European data, and the alfalfa does not always go into seeds. So those fields are registered, but you have to know that in all the countries that grow alfalfa in Europe, they first take a silage cut. And now, like over here, in most cases, it's dedicated seed production. So you really know the grower goes for the seeds. But like last 2 years in Italy, they just didn't catch any seeds. So this is also why we are still so short. So this is the perennial ryegrass production, and only for your convenience, I just put the different countries in. So here you can see that in Denmark, this is by far the biggest production country in Europe. I would say we have a market share of about, with DSV Frø, in Denmark we have a market share of about 15 to 18% of this total Danish production. And of course the biggest one is DLF, it's about 50% I would say, maybe 60. And then we have a few other smaller players. Interesting to see is that also Poland is slowly getting into the game. Not always very convenient, as they behave like cowboys. What can you do? So very clear here, the red fescue production. I think this is very important for you to know that because of this certified seed production, DLF and ourselves, we did not offer any new contracts to our growers, which it hurts also because we like to grow, of course, but we had to react on the oversupply. So the big steep curve down. And also maybe you can see also Sweden grows a little bit, but that are Danish colleagues that go over the bridge, and then we also contract in Sweden. So these are the more short-living grasses, Westerwolds, Italian, where it is interesting for you to know maybe that we produce the majority in Germany because of I know Dan was saying you cannot make money with dairy, but they grow our annual ryegrasses because they take first the silage cut, and after that they take the seeds. So then they have a kind of a double income, and we can be a bit more competitive. Also interesting, Poland, is more present in this market. Kentucky bluegrass, it's all Denmark, you could say, and it's under control. Not on a high level, came down nicely. We're not so worried, I would say. This is interesting, tall fescue is increasing, where I would like to also add that I think more than 50% in the meantime is forage tall fescue, as especially in Europe, this is really branded by a lot of companies as being better than perennial in the forage mixtures. Orchard grass, it's a bumpy ride. We never get it right somehow. Most of it, or a lot of it, is for us export. And then some years you have no demand and then you have to produce again. So it's typical. And most of it is in Denmark again. And France produces it also, but that's more for the domestic use, for their own country. Timothy, like I said, most of it is being produced in Finland and Sweden. We produce ourselves most in Germany and in Canada. But those, Finland and Sweden is more for domestic varieties. Yeah, I don't see them so much on the market. And we try to prevent them from taking our prices down. Meadow fescue, traditionally also in Europe, Germany is the biggest one, but it is also getting a bit more difficult to find growers. Like I said, we have a bit more protected environment with our recommended varieties. So we are until now still able to keep the price on a, let me say, money where we earn money, level where we earn money. So I'm happy with that. White clover production, Denmark, slowly increasing due to different reasons, but in general, also environmentally, people want us to use less nitrogen, so more clover goes into the mixtures. Red clover, here you can see that France in the past was the biggest producer, but the decline is very significant, also because of the loss of dicot. Poland tries to kick in, where they also sometimes import seeds from somewhere and try to baptize it into certified seeds. So that's a little bit tricky. So last but not least, on these sheets here, the Italians is where I see normally also seed supply being available on the international markets. And in 22 and 23, or 23 and 24, they virtually had no yield. They just took it all into silage. So then you can see the acreage is in here, but the seeds were not there. Yeah. So, but when they kick in again, it can be that 25 is an excellent year. Then it will have a significant effect on the supply. So, last but not least, a few slides about North American seed practices versus European seed practices. I'm also a grower, so I could also go into how we grow, but that is for later in the conference maybe. Now I zoom in a little bit more on the, let me say, certified, not certified. What is the difference, and what can we learn maybe from each other? Sometimes I also wonder myself, oh my gosh, you know, we have a field, everything is excellent, and then the neighbor has a different variety, and then we have to, let me say, separately harvest 50% of the field or something. Yeah, it's all costs, and what does it bring us, yeah? So here you can see at the left, this is in the basin, where they were harvesting Kentucky bluegrass, I think. And at the right picture is a German situation, where they are harvesting red fescue without swathing. So, non-certification, yes or no? In North America, commercialization of grasses and legumes is possible without restrictions. In Europe, it's only possible with listing in the EU list of plant varieties. So then we talk about certified seeds. There's a small amount of small species that can be traded uncertified, but that's only very minor, like tufted hairgrass or stuff like that. But when they go bigger, then the people will say, hey, it has to be certified, yeah? So, what is the difference if you look at plant breeder rights, intellectual property protection? So in North America, yeah, it's data submitted by the breeder agent, no recommended list. You do have your ANTAP system. Patent protection possible, but not common for grasses and clovers. And then we have Europe. There we have plant breeder rights based on DUS, which I will explain later. And then the breeder provides original stock seeds also to the authorizations. So they compare the certified seed with the original breeder seed lot. And they have a system of pre- and post-control. So that is a patent protection is not used or not common. This system works quite well, I would say. So what is DUS? Or let me say it different. Europe is pro-certification, so it's a system to protect plant breeder rights. Official listing of grass and clover varieties in Europe is possible with a positive DUS and a VCU. So what is this actually? A turf listing is also possible only with DUS, but then you can only sell it on the common markets. And what is DUS? So that is, your variety needs to be distinct, uniform, and stable. And they look at that for 2 or 3 years. So if we have a new variety, dog, yeah, I send it to the authorities, they look at it, it has to be distinct, so they also compare it to already existing varieties. And if it's not distinct enough, they just refuse it, and then you have to start over again. But after approval, the variety is protected by plant breeder rights. On top of that, if you really want to enter your premium markets, then you also need your VCU to be done. That the value cultivar use, so that means you have to prove your cultivar has added value for the industry. So that takes 2 until 5 years. As an example for turf, if you want VCU on turf, you go to England to the Bingley list, and then they really compare the varieties, density of leaves, all kind of rust resistances or whatever. But if you make it on that list in the top 5, then you have a really great revenue from it. But you have to invest, yeah? So, and the commercial success can be improved by ranking on national or regional recommended lists. That's even a level deeper then. Yeah, this is just a picture, but it's not even the best picture because you don't see any differences. But then here they would compare all the different varieties, and in the case of forage varieties, they have those machines, those silage cutter machines from Haldrup, and they take 5 cuts and compare the weights and the internal quality aspects. So, in VCU, there's none. Only limited private testing, limited independent data sources. So the way I regard it, sales is more supported by marketing and branding, and that is more cheap, of course. High seed yielders are very important in the US, yeah, especially in the turf grasses, of course. And on the other side, Europe, science-based protocols to test forage species to be proven significantly better than existing varieties. Different recommended lists, and the forages need DUS and VCU to be listed. And like I said, in most cases, turf only needs DUS. But if you really want to make a lot of money, you also want your VCU to be ranged. But it's more expensive, but protected. So it has pros and cons. But still, high seed yielders are important, but especially in forage, the agronomic parameters prevail. We can live with paying our growers a bit more money if the sales prices also match to that. So, only a few slides to go. I don't know how I am on time, but about ownership of the varieties, also illustrating the difference. Former times more with seed companies, more and more depending on access to germplasm. I heard also from Dan that is the reason why they started breeding for themselves at Smith Seeds, as the universities, they don't deliver that much anymore. I don't know what the future of that is. In Europe, ownership and development by seed companies. The European breeder law is a very special law actually, because it grants access to all genetics, to all the companies. So if we make a new variety, it can be so that DLF asks for the seed from this variety to start their breeding again. And we would give them that seeds. First year we say, oh, we don't have any. And then we wait a little bit, 2-3 years, but the intention of the law is quite good, I think, because it is for the sake of all of us that we together build on better varieties for the future. So there's an open exchange of germplasm. I'm also not a big fan how they do it in the US with patenting seed, and the really big companies, of course, they really try to squeeze out everything out of the, now you could say the farming industry. I would also, from a personal side, have problems with that. I like it, this is much more, let me say, a common thing to develop. So, I don't know where it will go. Also, when margins get more under pressure, and certification is of course more expensive, we will see. But I know for sure that we own varieties which can make a difference for North America. So I hope that was a little bit in the background of my presentation also. that you get the message that we are here to bring innovation, new concepts, new varieties, and maybe in the future everybody will be more fond of certified seed because of this reason. And I think we are all here to make a living from this beautiful seed industry. And it all starts with the growers, yeah? So, if you look at the ownership of seed, more and more on the seed grower level in North America. So the producer has a contract with the seed company, and maybe there's an escape to sell uncertified seed when the quality is not met. And in Europe, we don't have that possibility. Yeah? But the inventory risk is more at the grower level. And on the other side, I try to mirror a little bit the same things in Europe. So in Europe, the seed grower can sell the seed only back to the seed company, because there's no market for uncertified seeds. So if the field does not make certification, I charge the grower with the cost for that. Yeah? So he needs to do a better job then. It's all in the contract. But on the other hand, we commit to a price, and we take all the seeds. So the seed company commits to take all the seeds delivered and pay for them in the same business year. Yeah? So it's a little bit different construction, I would say. Pricing, min, max, or related to market development. Not that much different. We don't have an algebra. Although the Danish system is not far away from that. As DLAV is so dominant, they can, let me say, make their cost efficiency quite high in case they need the money. Because it's also farmer owned. So there's also a lot of empathy within the grower community if the prices are low in a certain year. But of course, the inventory risk is at the seed company. But the seed company is also better able to steer the amount of hectares. So, this is the wrap-up from what I have shown. There's also a little bit of a personal message in it. The markets will recover. Certification has its pros and cons. The challenges that we see is the availability of chemicals. Maybe not so much over here, but like in the small countries in Europe, they all have their own national regulations. And like in the Netherlands, it's really getting critical, the amount of fungicides we have available and herbicides for the grass seed productions. It's a fight. Also the availability of fertilization. You cannot imagine maybe, but in the Netherlands, I will show it in my last sheet, we apply quite a lot of fertilization. Like in forage perennials, we apply 190 to 200 N per hectare. And they have a new regulation that they monitor the amount of nitrogen in the subsoil. And in certain areas, when it's too high, you're only allowed to apply 70% of what the crop needs. So regulation is more and more, let me say, in our way, or of course they think they do a good thing, but it makes farming a challenge. So that's already political behavior then. Yeah, and also Dan talked about it, the war, tariffs, sustainability goals that affect agriculture, like this example I just illustrated. Exchange rates, also important for us. Opportunities that we see. Yeah, seeds will increasingly be important to feed the world, and seeds are the answer to many biodiversity and sustainability challenges. Like I also showed, our cover crop mixtures or underseeding. I think it will be practiced. The other day, last week, there was a study group of farmers. We had a presentation from Kverneland. It's a machine company. And they sold already, I don't know how many drilling machines with 3 different tanks on it for combinations of crops. And this is heavily also funded by the government. Yeah? So it's a development we see where I think it's a good development, at least for us also to sell more seeds, right? So this is my last sheet, just a little bit from my backyard, where you can see this is a forage perennial, where we do it a little bit different, where we really mow it like a carpet, so not windrowing it, because there's so much mass on those fields. We need all the sunlight and wind to dry it, and then do the swathing like this. But we have quite good results with this. It's pretty much the same as the Kiwis do it in New Zealand. That was my last slide, so thank you for your attention. I don't know if there's also questions from the audience. Yes, please.
Do you use leafcutter bees on your alfalfa seed production fields for there?
Good question. The question is if we use leafcutter bees on the production fields of alfalfa. No, we don't. It's all like we produce also in Hungary, and then we try to find fields that has ditches around it and bushes, so that we have enough natural pollinators. So it's not really highly technical, you know, but we do have an experiment now in Denmark for the first time, and I don't know if it will be successful, but we will see. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah?
Is there some of the countries over there that don't have to buy or use certified seed, like Bulgaria, or like is there a group of countries that are involved with certified, and is there some on the outside that are not?
Good question. The question is, are there also European countries involved in uncertified seeds? The honest answer is that there is uncertified trade happening, and we as a breeder company and also DLF, we started a foundation, Breeders' Trust, to bring those people to court, so to say. But yeah, of course, if it's far, far away in the east of Europe, it happens. Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
I always hear that everything has to be certified, but then you hear of other surrounding countries that are outside, the other side of the wall or something like that.
To make a long story short, I think that in an ideal world, everything is perfect and only certified seeds. But if margins go under pressure, there's a war going on, the guys need money, anything can happen, yeah? Yes?